Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 164 of the Sonic Movie Show, the only show that's about Sonic news, movie news, and Sonic movie news. My name is Ethan, and with me here to talk about Sonic Frontiers is Devin.
This is not an alliance. Just
Is
so
it
you know, we're at war.
Eggman says that, right?
Yeah, I had a bunch of quotes that I could have pulled from, but that one I was like, this is gonna be a good one for like. I just like adding the idea that we have beef
Oh, yeah.
on the show because there's not.
Yeah.
What makes good podcasts is when there's actual beef. Like they're talking so much shit and it's on air. Oh, it's like WWE. You know, like people like WWE for that shit.
That's true. That's true.
So I'm just gonna pretend for this episode I have beef with you.
There's a podcast that I don't have the time to listen to, but I know I respect the creators that make it, and I listen to them for other stuff, follow them for other things, who, for whatever reason, they're the subreddit dedicated to that podcast. A lot of them are convinced they hate each other, but it's successful enough that they have to stick around. And I'm like, man, that would be so fun if there's conspiracies about us. You know what I mean? Like, man, Ethan hates those fucking green triangles, and Devin rolls his eyes whenever he sees the steel book behind Ethan. You know what I mean? But they don't want to show it. They don't want to show it.
They don't want to show it.
Money's
but once that record button comes off, it's
they
all
immediately shut off. Yeah.
Yeah.
Today's episode. Stop talking over me.
Yeah.
Today's episode of the Sonic Movie Show is all about Sonic Frontiers, the game that came out months ago, and we're ready to finally give you our review of the game. I finished it months ago. Devin finally finished it.
It's
who's
my
a bigger
fault.
Sonic fan?
Yeah, I'll take the blame. I just can't. It didn't help that God of War Ragnarok came out the same day.
Yeah.
If that didn't come out, I think I would have finished it in December, maybe January. But yeah, it's tough for Devin to sit down and play a game. But I will say, when we're talking about this game, I mostly have positive things to say, and some of the negative things I think relate to the fact that I just take too long to play video games.
Okay.
But yeah.
I have one question. Did you platinum the game?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Awesome. Good. That's all I needed to know. All right, this has been a fun episode. We both platinumed the game. Goodbye. No.
Well, I mean, like, I think last time we talked about it, like, off air, where I was like, oh, by the way, get ready to do the episode because I'm pretty much done. You gave me, like, the 2 tips of, like, how to get... One of them was, like, do the rush thing. What's it called? The
Phantom Rush. Weird
Phantom
name.
Rush. Phantom Rush, because he's not a ghost, you know?
Right.
But, yeah, Phantom Rush and how to do that, because I was like, I'm too powerful.
Because that was my last trophy. And it was so annoying.
And then you knew exactly what my issue was, where I was like, I can't find Amy.
Yeah.
And you're like, just look up.
That was the last.
I didn't even tell you enough context. I'm like, I think my game's glitched. I can't find Amy. And you're like, look up.
Yeah. That was my issue. I did all of Knuckles' things because I'm like, for this story, spoiler free, but I'm gonna spoil a little bit of this instance. It is not the game where it's like a Zelda thing where you get extra abilities that let you explore new places. It is not that kind of game. But when trying to do Kronos Island with the Amy stuff, there was that one that I could not find her. I'm like, she's supposed to be right here. The point is pointing right here. She's not here.
Right.
Because really what it should have been was it should have stopped at the platform she was standing on, because I would have followed that to up there. That's how you solve that issue.
Yeah, because I thought she was missing, and I thought it was out of order. I thought it was like an order thing.
Yeah.
So I kept doing all the other ones, and I'm like,
she's not here.
This one should be the next one.
So I'm thinking there's something you get where you can do it later. I'll just move on. And because I 100% of that island except for Amy, I'm like, I want this island done so I can move on to the next island. I do all the Knuckles ones. I'm like, okay, well, if I can do all the Knuckles ones and there wasn't any unique thing to do to find him.
Yeah.
Besides find his stupid orange medals that are littered in the sand. I'm like, all right, I missed Amy somewhere, so I'll go back. And then, I just see her, and I just looked up, and I'm like, oh, there she is. So,
right.
Yeah, but it's a fun game. And we both platinumed the game. We played on the PlayStation 5 version digitally, if that means anything to you. So we also both own the PS4 version. I will be platinuming that version. I assume, Devin, you're not going to. But, if you ever feel like playing it again... Might as well, right?
I remember, I don't know if you said this like a couple episodes ago, but I remember you mentioning like with movies, you rarely watch it was the last episode because we did Sonic movie review part 5, fifth time. Um, you're welcome, fans. That like you rarely watch a movie, even movies you enjoy like more than once, and I'm like that with games most of the time, unless it's Counter
I
Strike
gotcha.
because that's my vice. Yeah,
That's a multiplayer thing. It's not a single player thing.
yeah, but it's an addiction. I'll admit it.
Yeah,
It's
and
a cruel mistress.
no, I mean like I'm that way where there are games where like I feel bad that I haven't played this game in a few years, and it's like a game from 1998. But like, yeah, I haven't played Ocarina of Time in like 5 something years. I need to just do another run through that game. I have a list in my head that I'm getting back into streaming this year of like, here are 5 games that I should be playing to completion once a year. Single player games are not that long, especially because I play them that many times. Like, no, I really love these games. I'm playing them once a year because they're always going to be associated with my memories of video games. Is Sonic Frontiers going to necessarily be that? It all depends on where the future goes. If we get bad Sonic games after this and this becomes a high point, then yes. But if we get a sequel that's just like this, then no. Um, but yeah, we both played PS5. I will say, so that's our perspective. We play with that 60 FPS. Didn't play on the Switch, which apparently looks butt ugly. I've seen some footage. So that is our perspective. Let's talk spoiler free on the video game, which I'm sure probably most of our fans, Sonic fans that are listening to this, you don't have fans, have already probably beaten the game or watched it on YouTube, or they don't really need a spoiler free section. But just in case, let's give some general spoiler free, opinions on the game, and then we'll talk specifics. So I'm gonna just start with you.
Lead
Tell
off. You're a
me,
lead off hitter.
generally speaking, and this is a specific question, but we're gonna talk generally spoiler free here. How do you think the balance was of open zone gameplay, where you then have instances where you're playing normal levels? Do you think the balance was good? Are you think something was lacking? Do you wish something had more elements to it? What do you think about the actual Sonic gameplay stuff?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it took me how many months to finish, and it was like 30 hours, maybe less, to beat it. And I guess that like it's hard for me to pay attention a lot to in games. I get bored easier, I think, than most gamers. Especially when it comes to open world stuff. I've talked about it plenty of times of my beef with open world. Most of it just relies or goes back to on my commitment with time. I don't have enough time to commit to a 40, 50-hour game. That's why I'm having struggle with. I love God of War Ragnarok, but I feel like I'm not going to finish it till April just because I know it's a big meaty game. So I'll want to say it with that first. But with all that in mind, with how long this game was and the amount of islands there are, won't say a number, I guess, because it's a spoiler, I guess, but there's islands, plural.
More than one.
And then there's different levels you can go to, which are little rune markers or whatever. I feel like it was just enough because I had fun on 90% of those levels, and it made me look forward to when I discovered them or had to go to them. Especially when I go to a new island, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get new ones of these. And I know one question we had going in before Sonic Frontiers coming out was, how many variations are there going to be? Are they going to be like, we thought there was only going to be like maybe 10 total, like in the game. And we thought they were all going to be based off of the old games in some capacity. Like there was going to be a reference to like the truck on in San Francisco level there. Or like one of the snowboarding levels, whatever. Right. And I liked that there was like 4 general themes to them, and they felt spread out enough and a little bit different from each other that it felt refreshing. And if I was struggling with one, I just beat it. I got the one rank or one key I need from it, or whatever item I needed from it, and I moved on. There was some I didn't like, and I'm like, I don't have to play this to move on. And that's great and refreshing, considering what we just did Sonic 06 not a couple months ago, where you have to beat this level to move on the game.
Yeah.
And if you fucking hate it,
too bad.
You're stuck. Or if you're not good enough to beat the level, too bad. And some Sonic games we've played are purposely get harder, right? And there's sometimes I struggled. I'm glad we had infinite lives on, and when we were playing Sonic the Hedgehog, because there's no way I would have beat that game. I wouldn't have been able to have the patience to
Oh,
go
the
from
first
beginning.
Sonic the Hedgehog, you're saying?
Yes, yeah.
I gotcha.
So this kind of just breaks the mold of what Sonic games are, I guess, structured, where it's not as linear anymore. It's open world zone. But yeah, I think it was a good balance, and I have more thoughts on it, but I'll wait until we get to more specifics. But
Okay.
I think they did a decent job of having the balance, and I felt generally entertained most of the time. And like I said, if there was a part of it I didn't like, I just didn't. I didn't do that level again. And there's other ones where I'm
Nice.
like, I just am having fun with this, so I might as well go for all the collectibles or try to get an S rank or whatever it was on it. And there was many I did that.
Yeah. Um, a few things that really stood out for me for the levels were they are all generally the same difficulty, which is
Yeah.
which
There's
is
a
what I
couple tough
wanted.
ones, but there was ones that were
Right.
like
There were ones that were
the
tougher.
eighth one,
Yeah,
and they were
but like
fine.
the very last set of levels on whatever the last island is, were not that much more difficult than the first islands ones. The first islands ones had some that were definitely introductory levels. I get it.
Yeah.
But there some of the later, because you can do them in any order, the later numbered ones on the first island were much more complex. I don't want to say difficult, but more complex than the introductory ones. And that complexity did not increase over the course of the game. They stayed about the same, which I really liked. The fact, again, that you can do them in any order and that you don't need to S rank them both for the game or the trophies. Just nice. I definitely S ranked most of them, but there are a couple where I'm like, I'm spending way too long trying to get the perfect run on this because I'm having fun and I know I'll get the S rank for the time's sake on it. And I'm just messing up a jump here and I'm getting the mindset of I need to perfect this level. I'm just gonna move on, whatever. Never needed to go back to it. But I enjoyed the fact that you can do them in any order. There were times where like in the open zone running around, I'm like, I see that level there. I'm not gonna play it right now because I just want to like fill out the map over here and then go to it. If I'm ready to do it, I'm gonna do it.
I actually missed one. Like I beat the game,
Yeah.
and I realized I missed
Really?
one
Oh,
on the last
interesting.
island, and it was like number 6.
There
Like it
was
was like a
more-
random number.
There are more on that last island than the others. The others have the same number, except for the last one has like 2 or 3 more. But the big kicker for me, and I don't really necessarily feel like this is indicative of why the levels are fun, or why I think it worked, but every single level, I think, don't know this for a fact, I could Google it if I wanted. I'm sure by now there's definitely wiki entries showing all this stuff. But there's a ton of levels that I recognized being based off other Sonic game levels, particularly because I'm such a big Sonic Adventure 2 fan. I saw all of the Sonic levels in there, and I saw at least one Shadow level in there. And even though they're using the same 4 motifs of same 4 level motif ideas, well, I guess I won't say what they are because we're still in spoiler free mode. I can distinctly tell, okay, this one motif, I don't necessarily see that it's this Shadow the Hedgehog level from Sonic 06 Radical Highway. That's not really a spoiler. I'll just say it. And then when I see like, oh my God, there's these rails going up and down. I'm like, this is the Golden Gate Bridge from that level. And
Yeah.
complete with how they do this. This is so cool. And I know, I probably mentioned this when the game first came out and we did our what we done so far in the game. I think I mentioned this then, but I'll repeat it anyway. It is not a laziness that it's like this. It is not the meme of save as Sonic Frontiers, save as PS5. It's not that. It is probably a little bit easier than designing a level from scratch because you have something to then work with and mold around.
You have a reference, at least.
You have a reference. But still, like it takes a lot of work to do that. It was not them just being lazy about it. And I don't feel like any of them were just copy paste in the sense of here's Green Hill Zone again.
There's like
Yes.
it felt more like sections within it were references to the past, which is what I feel like a general not theme of this game is, but like it
they call
clearly
it out.
They call
they
it
call
out.
it out.
They make it
Yeah.
implicit that it's all those things that happen in their games happen to some degree. And
Yeah.
Sonic makes jokes about it. Knuckles makes a joke about it. Whatever.
Yep. Yep. And the cyberspace levels know Sonic's history, and they even say well, no spoilers, but like Sonic's able to do this stuff because it seems a little bit familiar. You know what I mean? So that's my big thing with the levels is the fact that they were easy. I love replaying older Sonic games. Some levels, usually the first two, maybe three.
Yeah. Right.
Sonic
Right.
Generations was my first ever game I platinumed. The last four levels, I don't really ever touch. I play up to City Escape because after City Escape, they're not all that much fun anymore because you need a lot of rote memorization or you just suck. And that's lame. This game, on the other hand, so you screw this up, that's okay. You just keep going. And it doesn't even matter if you beat this level. It doesn't even matter if you play this level because you get
Yeah.
enough keys to keep going anyway, which was so smart and good.
Yeah, I want to add to that with like saying that I remember like when the first couple trailers came out and all the questions I know we asked and whatnot, but how there was some Sonic fans and I just think gamers do this in general, where especially when they are trying to make reference to old things or like bring back old things, and I think there is times when maybe gaming developers are copy and pasting, but this wasn't it, like you said, and it was very frustrating to see that immediately people were like, "Wow, look at this shit. They're fucking getting lazy. Sonic Team's failing again." I understand Sonic Team is maybe sucked. Or I don't even say maybe has sucked with like Sonic Forces and stuff. I know that the trust in Sonic Team and Sega isn't there, but I feel like after this and whatnot, let's have some faith finally.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say
Yep.
what it is. I think we can finally have some faith, and I think it helps that we have also the movies being successful. That like it seems like Sonic is having a start of a renaissance.
Should be perfect. I
And I think
literally
it's a
be
good way to
perfect.
start that a good way to start that renaissance. Cat getting food again. Uh, the Sonic Renaissance starting is that you look back at the good parts of the old days. Yeah, it
Yeah.
would suck if they brought a shitty level from Sonic Adventure 2, one of the last space levels, and threw
Oh,
it
they're
in
in
here.
there,
And
but they don't suck. I recognize
right,
them, but they don't suck in this one, because it's
I'm saying it's not as
done
long
better.
as that, where it's a 12-minute thing,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
once again you have to beat it to get to the next
Yeah.
part of the story.
Yep.
This is, I think, overall, I just think they just did such a fantastic job of. They're like, we're gonna really buy into the open zone, open worlds concept, and it's also more accessible to have it, like you said, that hey, you're struggling with this level, it's okay, move on. These other Sonic games aren't accessible
Yeah.
in that regard.
Yeah.
This one, I think, is like the first Sonic game that I've played where I'm like, wow. I'm gonna say it before we even get to it, but this might be my favorite Sonic game because of how accessible it is for me, who's had. Sonic was the first. Sonic 2 was the first game I ever played. I never got past the second level as a kid because I didn't know how to
Because
fucking
it
do
gets
it.
hard. Yeah. Yeah.
And then all the times we've reviewed some of the Sonic Adventure games and whatnot. I've had my beef with them because they're too tough or they're janky and they're busted. And at least with this, it feels so much more polished. And if there is any glitches, it doesn't. It's not a glitch that's punishing you or a
Right.
glitch that feels total bullshit.
Yep.
So
It's
in these
forgiving,
levels,
and when other Sonic games would not be. You miss this spring, so you fall down a bit. You just go back up.
or if you
It's-
die, just quickly press start, restart level.
You're right
And
there.
it's instant. There's no loading screens. That's another great thing, at least on the PS5 version.
Oh, it's so
Not many-
instant. It's
Not
fantastic.
many loading screens.
Yeah, it's great. I turned off in the settings, by the way. I don't know if you did too. You can turn off the practice thing.
Oh, I didn't know I could do that.
Yeah, so then
I still did them
really
occasionally.
is
Just
instant.
it was nice when I wouldn't play for 2 weeks and come back and be like,
Yeah.
"Oh yeah, this is how you do a combo."
More games need to do that, especially open world games that have 5 million button configurations on their controllers.
God, every RPG that has like you have to hold down this button to get to this item, like
Yep.
yeah, just I don't know how to work your interface.
Yeah,
It's
that's why
been
I like
3 months.
when for some of these like Horizon Zero Dawn, I never beat that game. 10 start the sequel. I have a save file and I'm gonna start over. I'm not gonna benefit from being thrown in the middle.
Yeah.
Real quick, I almost lost my train of thought, but I remembered. One of the things I really do enjoy about this game, So this game does what a lot of other Sonic games do in that it has two gameplay modes. Whether or not they're illicitly, specified as two gameplay modes, this game has it. Plenty of other Sonic games do it. To walk back a bit, we did Sonic '06 as our episode 150 review, right? Obviously, terrible game. They need a reboot after that, so to speak. And Sonic Team, yes, it's Sonic and the Secret Rings, but it was done in tandem, so we're looping that in with Sonic '06. Next big Sonic Team Sonic game is Sonic Unleashed. They had this big engine, the Hedgehog engine, which Frontiers runs on. It's a massively updated Hedgehog engine. And the whole point of that is Sonic runs, his levels are miles long. We need to be able to render lightning in ways that doesn't take us weeks in real time to make a level's lighting. Because what if it doesn't work? Then we need to rebake all that lighting in and wait a week. It takes a day, which was great. They need an engine for Sonic. Sonic Unleashed did that. Sonic Unleashed has like 7 levels where you're playing as Sonic. And then obviously there's the Werehog stuff, which is the second gameplay mode where they can use those assets to make a level that takes 20 minutes. And there's 7 of those as well. But in addition to that, Sonic Unleashed had all these fucking stupid missions to do. The Act 2s of all of the regular Sonic levels were not all that fun. Did not feel like anything like the main versions of the levels, etc. And the Werehog slowed it all down. Sonic Colors doesn't have the Werehog. It's all the Sonic, daytime stages, the fun stuff. However, it has basically 5 main levels and a bunch of other smaller ones that use all their assets. And the second gameplay mode is more of a slowed down 2D platforming to pad out length, I feel like, and make sure that there's actual content to do because they don't have the time or money to make 30 awesome Sonic levels. They can only make 5, right? Sonic Generations, 9 levels for the fun new Sonic thing and 9 classic Sonic ones, which are easier to make and use the same assets, right? So we're going through, Sonic has lots of these 2 gameplay modes because one takes a lot more time and effort to make, and they need to have something to validate the fact that it's a full price game. This game, Sonic Frontiers, could be either or. You could strip out the open world and just leave the regular levels, or the opposite, and I would feel completely satisfied. And I don't even think they need each other. It's great that they're there, and neither of them feels like we need this because the other isn't enough. This is the first Sonic game to do those 2 different gameplay modes well, and it feels like they deserve to be there. That's why I'm happy. Everything about this game.
Yeah, I generally agree. I don't know how much fun I would have had if it was. I feel like the game would be obviously really short if you just had the cyberspace levels, the short levels. And I don't know how much fun I would have had if it was just open worlds. I think eventually I would have maybe gotten bored. But I feel like they found a good way to have the balance work out and have that combined into like just a solid product. This actually felt like it was worth it to spend the $60 on it. And anything, if you buy it now for 40 or whatever much it is now, you're getting a good deal, a solid deal, I think.
Yeah.
But I agree with what you're saying. It's
cool.
This feels like, I don't know, it just feels like this is the start of something, the next era of Sonic.
100% agree.
Even if you take away the movies, and I think it helps with the movies with a new kind of, I don't want to call it brand refresh, but just a like I said, a Sonic renaissance that like it feels like Sonic actually is cool again. Sonic is good again. I don't know if Sonic was ever really good, but you know what I mean? That like when Sonic first came out,
Sonic was bad for a little bit there.
Yeah.
Had to fight out of that. So I think obviously we both recommend this video game to Sonic fans and people that just like video games. This is honestly the first Sonic game I would recommend to someone who just likes to play video games. I would say, like, yeah, that was fun. It had a fun open world thing.
It's very casual. You don't need to know anything going
absolutely.
In. You could skip the story stuff if you really want to, too.
And it's fun.
So,
it's legitimately fun as a video game. So we recommend it. We want to go into spoiler mode now. So here's my next question, because I don't know how you could do this spoiler free and actually have substance to it. So I'm going to ask you now. We're in spoiler mode.
Spoiler mode.
What do you think about the story?
It's I mean, I'm not a big Sonic story fan. I don't really give a fuck about the lore. Uh, just being honest. I mean, I love to pretend that
One
I
could
like
say
Rouge the
that
Bat,
if
but
Sega really tried to dedicate their time to make a story for you, they'd say it's no use.
I mean, I laugh at the dialogue because it's funny sometimes,
Hmm.
but not on the way that they're trying to make it funny.
Hmm.
I mean, like I find the Sonic movie have a better story than this just overall, but it's a movie. They have more time to tell a story. But yeah, I've never really cared too much about the Sonic lore too much. If anything, it's just goofy. I mean, I understand it's not. I'm not the target audience. However, with this story, things I picked up on, I don't know how much it resonates with me fully, but I feel like their target audience is just a little bit younger than us. Like I want to say like early 20s, maybe even like 18, 19-year olds, in the sense that I feel like their target audience with this was the people who like grew up as kids playing Sonic Adventure, maybe even like uh like that era of 2008 onwards, like around there when we're 6 or 5 years old, uh, where they're finally growing up, they're getting ready for college or adulthood, whatever you want to look at it. And I say this because there's like moments where one, uh, Roger Craig Smith plays Sonic like older, like the way his voice acting was like a little bit older, and also like a lot of the stuff was like kind of like lessons, I feel like, or like Sonic giving advice to his friends and Sonic telling his friends like, hey, you don't need me to save you, like you have your own power, you have your own intelligence, you have your own autonomy to a degree. Like I remember like more distinctly with Tails,
Yeah,
a lot of the conversation with Tails is like Sonic telling Tails like, hey, you're tougher than you think you are.
yeah. Tails
You're the
feels
smartest
inadequate.
person I know.
Yeah,
Yeah, and you're not my sidekick. You're your own person, and so I feel like that's kind of touching upon like I could see this being kind of like a coming of age story for maybe older teens or like I said, young adults who kind of grew up with Sonic and now maybe they're trying to find that a little bit. So it didn't resonate with me fully because I older or a little bit older than that. But I can see this how it can maybe relate to like I said, young adults who maybe are like growing up a little bit or whatnot, and maybe Sonic is their go-to character to relate to in some way or gives them confidence. And maybe I like that Sonic is kind of telling his friends, being like giving them confidence that they're a part of his team too, or they but also that you can be independent. So I found that
yeah.
interesting. I don't know if that was their goal. That's what I kind of took away from it, and maybe I'm
That's
wrong.
kind of what I
Feel
took
free to
away too.
yeah.
Yeah. I think like they finally moved on from having the Sonic and Amy relationship be like a joke in terms of, oh, she's obsessed with Sonic and he doesn't like her. There's like a joke at that expense, but it's more about, her as a person and Sonic as a person and that thing. Same with Sonic and Knuckles. Like they have a bit of a rivalry and they bring that back in with this one, but it's more of a how Sonic approaches Knuckles is different than Tails, where like he respects Knuckles, he doesn't agree with Knuckles. Knuckles is cocky and Sonic is cocky, but like there's something there too. And yeah, the Tails stuff I thought was like, oh, this is actually there is something. Like it's not much. Like I don't think it's like crazy, deep. Maybe some Sonic fans, probably younger than us, probably will think it's very cool. Or we don't read the Sonic comics. I never will. So maybe it's kind of maybe close to what they get from that. You know what I mean? But I think it's really cool that it's there. The deeper voice definitely is more mature. The somber music is definitely more mature. Uh, Everything you do feels less wild, carefree, and fun that Sonic Adventure era was. Whereas like the Dream or the Genesis era, Mega Drive era was more snarky and attitude, tude, with an apostrophe TUDD. And then the
Yeah,
Dreamcast
yeah.
era was more crazy, wild, cool. Sonic is crazy, wild, cool. I think that's one of the songs in Sonic Adventure is called that. I think. Um, and they just kind of like in like the PS3, 360, and onward didn't really know what to do with Sonic. Give him like he wasn't either of the previous two things. He was kind of like this, but like not. And I feel like they found a footing with how they can keep going where like he can play the straight man to the other characters sometimes where like yes, like our villain Sage, pops up several times for no real reason other than so that they can have a conversation with her and Sonic about things, right? And like they're able to have him be funny and a little bit of the cockiness and Tood era, but in a perspective that feels like this is a character that's been playing for 30 years, 30, 35, however many years. You know what I mean?
Sonic has more respect, I guess, for his buddies. It isn't just like, yeah, you're here too. Like, it seems that like even when he's talking to Sage, that like, especially with like, I think it's part of the character of Sage is that Sonic is just there to help his friends, and he doesn't mean to like want to fight Sage or doesn't seem to be find them, doesn't have any ill will. You know what I mean? Like Sonic's just kind of like, I'm here to do this.
Yeah. That being said, while I guess I would prefer the Dreamcast Sonic just because that's what I grew up with, and it'd be fun to have one of those again. But like I like what they did with Sonic, doing that to Sonic. However, don't think it worked out with doing that with Eggman. Did the same thing with Eggman that they did with Sonic, and it feels weird. That opening cutscene, the game opens with Eggman finding the ruins or whatever, and like the way he sounds, the way that the cutscene was directed, with the way the camera motion was, does not work with the way Eggman looks. I don't think it works out very that well.
It felt choppy at moments.
Very weird.
Best way for me to describe it. Yeah, just out of place almost.
Sonic looks in a way where you can mold different personalities onto him. Eggman looks like he gets one, and they've been always doing that. And now they're trying, something new. And I think it worked with Sonic. I don't think it worked all that well with Eggman. Eggman is in this constant. If I have to think for a second of like, this guy blew up half the moon, whether or not that's canon or not doesn't matter. This guy wants to rule the world, have a theme park about himself. Half of these games feel like he's making a theme park or a city about himself. You know what I mean?
A metropolis,
like, a very egotistical. He has the laugh and he's got the mustache and he's got the personality and the visual to back all that up. If I have to think about the logistics about where he fits in society and his relationship with Sonic in a way that isn't that hedgehog, you know what I mean? It feels weird, and I don't think it worked. And I understand, like, because Eggman is not the villain in this game. He is, separate to the story that's going on, which I think was smart to do this. You can do this every once in a while. It does not always have to be Eggman that's the villain. I think it's fun when it's not, on occasion. But you don't want to do a Sonic 06 where why is he even there at all, especially at the very end. We don't need to get into that. I feel like they could have still had him be the old personality and done stuff with that where it helped out. I don't know. But at the same time, I don't hate the fact that they tried this. And I guess I wouldn't be totally against seeing what they might do in the future of like, if the sequel to this game, the gameplay sequel, because it might not even acknowledge this game story wise, but if a gameplay sequel to this game did keep these tones with these characters and Eggman is the villain, I would still be interested to see how does that work. So, but yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, 2 years ago when they first announced that they're working on a game or whatever, I don't remember the exact trajectory of it all, but I remember like we were talking about like what we want from a Sonic game, a new Sonic game, and how I just want to say we should have got more credit for the fact that we called it like an open world zone before. We didn't call it that, but we wanted
and
like
almost how it worked too.
Pretty close. But one thing we mentioned in that episode, how far back that was we wanted Sega Team to try something completely different, refresh it, and I think with like you saying that like maybe they didn't execute it fully with Eggman, but at least they tried, and that's what we wanted. We didn't want another Sonic Forces, another.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't want a Sonic Adventure. I've been kind of on like I don't want a Sonic Adventure 3 just because that's not the structure that I feel like will work best of how I want to play Sonic games, or I feel like they haven't. Back to the trust issues. I don't have the trust that they would make it good. I'm just gonna
Yeah.
call it what it is. But this, like I said, like going back to what I said earlier, like this feels like a foundation for something greater and actually fun. Like you said, this is a Sonic game that is fun. That could be fun to just general gamers who don't know anything about Sonic,
Yep.
or care about Sonic maybe generally. And I think it just goes back to like they weren't afraid to do that big shift. And
Yeah.
also, I do have some notes here about in terms of I don't want to call them references, but like
Before we get
inspirations.
into that, if I can just do one more Eggman thing, I think what really
Yeah.
crystallized it for me is it almost felt like they threw him in the same Western men who are in their late 40s designing video games because they have kids now. They gave him a daughter. And that
Right.
dynamic changes how he should act. Where, like, I don't think he should be a maniacal villain unless his daughter's also going to be that way too. Like a Harley Quinn to the Joker in the Batman the Animated Series is perfect. Not that they're related, but like she being a sidekick type of thing. But if her tone is the way it is here, that's how her character is. Yes, this Eggman does make sense then for that. So that's what, like, I just found that funny. I'm like, oh man, we have the Telltale The Walking Dead, and we had The Last of Us, and then we had BioShock Infinite, and we had
God of
Dishonored
War.
1 and 2. God of War is one of the few where I feel like it was successful and it didn't feel like it used the kid, maybe just because it wasn't a daddy-daughter game and it was a father-son game. Maybe that says more about how these people write these stories then. You know what I mean? Where, like, I don't know. I don't want to get into that all that much. And not to say I don't like any of those, I dislike any of those games except BioShock Infinite, or or that I don't like that idea at all, because I'm not gonna lie, I would do that type of reboot with one of my favorite game series. You'll see that in the future one day in one of these episodes. I'll reveal all. Um, but I just found it funny that, like, Eggman is like Joel. he needs to teach his surrogate daughter how not to be like him. You know what I mean?
Sage, I need you to not look back. You just look at me, okay? Okay, Eggman. Like I just can't. Yeah, they should get what's his name to. They should get what's his name to be Eggman next.
I mean, Pedro Pascal should be in every video game. You know what I mean?
He should just be in everything. We'll get into that whenever we do a Last of Us. I think we're probably doing a Last of Us episode of because it's too good to not talk about it.
We're not doing a beat by beat, like episode
but
by
like,
episode, but we'll do the whole thing as one. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
So yeah, I want to talk about, like, I guess, influences and inspirations quickly, because this goes back to when we first saw the teaser for this. I wouldn't say the first teaser, but like the first gameplay, and them like doing all the, like, hey, this is an open world thing, and like obviously the first thing people thought of was like, this is Breath of the Wild. This is Breath of the Wild. This is a copy of Breath of the Wild. And I want to kind of like give credit to this, to the developers here, Sonic team, in the sense that it isn't really just Breath of the Wild. There's so many influences in this from solid games or just cool things. Not just even video games. I think there's a lot of other stuff in this in a way that is, I think, tasteful, and I wouldn't call it a copy, because I think when people say copy, they do it with a negative connotation. I think that, yes, Breath of the Wild was clearly an inspiration for this in terms of its like color palette and tone, like you said. But it's also still like Sonic. It's still like they had the elements of what makes Sonic in there. But I also want to talk about another, I think, influence they had is based off like the kind of like not Asteroid, but with the other game with the, when you're like the little ship and you're shooting. I forgot the original game, but Nier. I just want to talk about Nier. That this game I think pulls a lot from Nier.
Interesting.
Maybe because we're big Nier fans, but like some of the music sounded like it. Especially on one island. I forgot which island it was.
The Volcano Island?
I think it was Volcano Island. A lot of the music
does this thing
gave
where
me Nier vibes.
It waits till a certain story beat where the main island music changes from from despair into hope. And yeah, I can see that.
And then some of the levels in that island, it was the first time they did that where it was a side view instead of a third person view
Like
for some of
sections
the
of the island. Yeah.
yeah. And I'm like, what other game did that? I mean, I know Nero isn't the first game to do that, but like, what's
I
the most
honestly
recent
can't think of
example?
many 3D 3D video games that then just have these forced 2D perspectives in it that isn't a platformer. So yeah, I would
Yeah.
credit Nier for that.
Yeah. So like for me, I'm like, did the developers look at on Automata and were like, let's do that shit. I love that game. And like that game's not it's popular, but it's not that popular that like every Sonic fan's gonna know that. But like
Mhm.
for anyone who's listening to this episode, who doesn't know what Nier is, just go look up Nier Automata and just look at some like Let's Plays or something, or one buy the game and maybe play it because if you liked
It's on
Sonic,
sale right now digitally for the first time in over a year.
so there you go.
And it's on Switch.
But it just has that like that one level there or that one island had so many of that, and I wonder if they're like,
Yep.
yeah, let's just make an island that
Yep.
has that kind of vibe to it, but not directly, not like we're gonna have the desolate buildings in the background and whatnot, but like we just feel like this would be a good theme with the volcano and all that, and I
Yeah.
just really liked that because it just made me think about that game. But I also want to talk about like with the combat, and we can go more into combat in general, but like I feel like the combat loosely pulled from like some of my favorite action games like Devil May Cry a little bit, and just like some of those like high, like I'm saying in terms of like the colors and like the over the top like lasers kind of stuff. It wasn't
Hmm.
to that degree because I don't think they wanted to go away too much from the the Breath of the Wild kind of sandbox of it all. Like I don't think they wanted to make it too much. But yeah, some of his like combos are pretty like crazy, like in terms of action going on. And then Supersonic, obviously, being like the top tier of that during the boss fights. And I'm glad I'm not a big like Supersonic fan, like the idea of it. But like I thought it was fine
I
when I
think it's
finally
the
like I
only game that's handled it well.
yeah, where I'm like I
It's
just know what to expect it during the boss fight. And it's not gonna be that long. It's not gonna be that cheesy. Or if it is cheesy, it'll be over soon. And it still felt grounded to a degree, which is
yeah.
hard to pull off. But I also I think I mentioned this in a couple of the episodes we've done where we've said, hey, where are we at Sonic Frontiers? There's elements of just a lot of Godzilla. I want to even say Evangelion and like that kind of kaiju stuff.
Well, the
And maybe it's just because,
first boss has that slim, large,
yeah,
broad-shouldered look. It
long
looks like an
limbs.
Eva. Yeah.
Yeah. Or an angel in Evangelion.
The
But then
the
like one
big
of the,
teeth, the focus on the teeth too. Yeah.
yeah. And then there was one of the mini bosses you can fight on, I forgot what island it was, where he spins in a circle and like you're caught in a whirlwind,
Oh yeah.
and
Yeah.
he shoots the four like smoke out of each end, kind of like a jet engine. That's freaking Gamera. That's how Gamera flies in the movies, straight up, and has been since the '60s when those movies came out, originally came out. Where he literally spins in a circle and has out of his armpits or literally where his arms go,
Yep.
there's smoke coming out. Just let's YouTube Gamera flying, you'll see what I mean.
Giant turtle.
But yeah, giant turtle that flies. But yeah, and someone who likes that kind of stuff, I'm like, cool. I wonder if this is a reference. I think it's a reference to that or an inspiration at least. And I'm sure there's other inspiration in this that I'm maybe just don't notice because I haven't played
I see a lot of I see, well, not a lot, but I do see I think we mentioned this. I mentioned this when we did our back in November. What have we done so far? I see as much Breath of the Wild as I see Mario Odyssey, where Mario Odyssey
That's
was
true too. I can
here's
see that.
large levels, some smaller, but some large areas where there's a bunch of things to do any way you want to do them, and you're getting all these moons. You can equate the same thing to how you get the different rewards in Sonic Frontiers. That's that version of that idea in some cases. The combat, I feel like, well, yes, like flashy and over the top. I feel like structurally, I think it differs from a character action game in the sense that how quick you get in and out of them feels, I don't want to say like Breath of the Wild, but like they are just kind of there and you get in and you get out and if you want to do it in a different way, you can. But the combat worked for me in ways, I don't want to say in many ways, but like I did not think it would work at all. I was down on the idea of how they did the combat and the skill tree. I still feel like the skill tree was a kind of a waste in this game
Because you finish it
so
by like, I
quickly.
feel like that by the second island, they needed to
Yeah.
either make it harder to achieve those or add more. And I get
Yeah.
like, I still think there's quite a bit more than I was expecting once it all said and done. But yeah, I wish I didn't unlock all of it
Yeah.
uh,
I have a fear.
so
I have a
quick.
theory because the entire game's economy, so to speak, in terms of all the things you can collect, you get so many of them so easily and so quickly that I never needed to get more of the memory tokens for someone. I had them all at all times. I never needed to get any more. Because like yes, I wanted to platinum the game, but the game was also fun to 100%. It was fun to go to the sections on the map and fill out the section. It was fun to see something and go do it, which is what you want out of the video game, what the video game wants to do, obviously. Um, my theory, that plus the fact that the fishing, I mean, oh my god, like the
The
trophy or
fishing,
whatever
that's the one
for
thing I didn't really
it
like
wasn't all
too
that
much because
fun, but like I'm not against the fact that it was easy, but you can get so many of those many different
tokens,
resources, the tokens,
the
the
power
keys,
berry
even
things.
keys,
Yeah.
even you know what I mean. Like keys were not hard to get. S rank one of the levels, and you probably have half the keys you need for
Right,
most of
right.
the islands, right? Um, I have a theory that at some point the requirements for this stuff was much higher, but the fear of kids not being able to finish the game kind of won in the end, and they're like, okay, let's just, you know what? There are going to be people that are going to
Sometimes
100%
it's
it
better to be
anyway, you
sometimes it's better to
know?
be overpowered rather than it being like I have to grind so much to get to a point where I'm can beat everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like
There
it's
are
a give
people
and
that
take a little
probably
bit, but
mainlined the game somehow. I don't feel like this is a game that necessarily has a do this, then this, then this, then this, then this, and you're done. I don't. You kind of just explore how you want, and I guess when you feel like you're done, then move on.
I mean,
So
to be honest,
naturally, I did them all
the
as I
first
did
two
them.
islands, I barely used the mini map or the map at all. Like I probably could have saved myself a couple hours by using the map and realizing like I could just focus on unlocking the whole like getting rid of the fog completely. Instead, I just kind of let my brain wander, really,
Yeah.
let my controller wander. Where I'm like, oh, this looks cool. Oh, I haven't gone here yet. Let me. Oh, what's over here? I'm gonna fight this guy. Okay, I'm gonna go over here. I'm gonna go here. Oh, I haven't collected this. Oh, this is Amy. Hello. And then
Hello.
for the first, for the first couple islands, I did that. It wasn't until later I realized like, oh, I could accomplish my thrill of exploring things, but give myself some sort of a general direction instead of just
Yeah.
wandering. Because
Yeah.
there was times when I wind up like kind of doing the same stuff over and over again. I'm like, I need to like go to this other part of the island. I didn't even
Yeah.
realize how big this
There's
island is.
enough
So
variation on what you can do in the open zone that I never felt like, all right, I keep picking up all these memory tokens. It's like, yeah, because you keep looking at a rail and running to it. There are other things to focus on.
yeah,
But that sensation you talked about of just letting your brain see something, oh, what's that? I'm interested in that. I'm gonna go there is 100. I'm gonna say this probably several times. 100% Breath of the Wild. That is what made that game fantastic. That game's world design was impeccable. I recommend. I know you didn't play much of it because you played my copy. I recommend that game. It's $40 right now, which is rare for an first party Nintendo game to do that. I recommend picking it up for anyone out there that played Sonic Frontiers that did not play Breath of the Wild. That's has that sensation of I just see things and I go there and I do them and it's just constant fun.
yeah.
That's what that
I
game
will say,
does.
I mean, like you said, I've only played maybe 8 hours total of maybe less than that of Breath of the Wild, but like I think I would lean more towards this just because like I can move quicker and I can quickly satisfy my brain. You still have to like run around a lot in Zelda and whatnot to get places. Or maybe you have to have certain materials or object or items to get. But so I feel like this is more of like a skeleton version of Legend of Zelda, but I don't mean that in a negative way. That like you can quickly get to one end of the island to the other, but still feel like you've seen a shit ton. And
Yeah.
like I said, I get bored easily, and I feel like maybe besides, I think the desert island was the only one where I was like, okay, I'm kind of sick of
There's
seeing
a
the
lot of
sand.
fucking canyons that kind of
That
gate some things.
got
I'm like, how do I get over there? That's what
yeah, but
frustrating. I
like,
saw
but the
people
other
on Twitter
ones,
talk about the
fine.
volcano in that fashion of like, how do I get to this island? I never had that issue with the different volcano, mini islands. It was the desert for me. But
Yeah,
at the same
that's
time,
probably my least favorite one.
it
Yeah, and
wasn't
I
that bad.
usually yeah, but yeah, I just want to say that like it felt like even if the time spent, it still felt like I saw so much, but it was only been an hour, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And I can see how you could streamline it, but I feel like this game isn't a game you want to streamline.
Yeah. It's not designed. It's designed like the Breath of the Wild style open worlds, not the Assassin's Creed. It is not, again, like, yes, you look at the minimap and yes, there are icons on it, but like, it's more user directed, like Breath of the Wild was, where, like, yes, it does want you to look at something and mark that right then and there and look at your map and see, okay, that's where it is. I'm going to go there now, as opposed to you climb a tower and like Assassin's Creed and you sync with it. And then all of a sudden, bing, 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 your mini map is full of
There's
shit.
20 side quests, and 3 of them are fetch
Like,
quests.
it
4
always,
of them are combat related.
Yeah.
6 of them you actually need items for to even like successfully do.
Far Cry 4 was
Yeah.
the one for me where I'm like, number one, why does climbing this tower tell me where all the propaganda posters are? And B, why do I need to pull them down? What purpose are they besides a literal checklist? They don't give you anything. That's when I kind of wrote off that style. Like, yes, some of them I will do. Some of these games I will get into, but I can't. They gotta have purpose.
A
This
good
style
version
of
of that
open
is
world had
Spider-Man.
purpose. Yeah, because moving was fucking fun. Moving in a game like
Yeah.
Assassin's Creed is barely fun. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Assassin's Creed is not that fun with the parkour stuff that people think it is. Far Cry and all them. I'm sorry if I have to find a car to move, it's not fun. Spider-Man was fun because the act of moving around was what was fun. Same with Sonic. The act of running around the island was as Sonic was fun. When you max out the speed and the boost and all that, and if you're at like full health or something, your speed is infinite. It turns into the infinity instead of
Yeah.
giving you like an actual gauge that depletes. I'm like, this is awesome. It feels great when you have max rings. That's what I think it is. Max
Yeah,
rings.
max rings.
In your boost is yeah. Very very cool. The act of running around was fun. Now,
One nitpick though, and
go on.
I know that you'll probably agree with me with this, was that how to level up, like you talk to either the elder Coco or the other Coco, and one of them like it's just instant how many of the collectibles you have. I think it was the power, they look like berries to me, so I call them
Yeah.
berries, but you give them a blueberry and a raspberry, and then then all of a
Yeah.
sudden your attack and defense go up, right? And like if you collected enough, you can just go to them and you can
He just
directly get
says,
to
"All
level
right,
99.
give me all of them. Here are your stats."
But then they did that with the ring and the ring capacity and the speed. That they should just did the same thing with that, where it's just
The issue is they give you
or
a
you multiply it by
choice,
5.
and that's
If
why
they
it sucks.
it should have been multiples of 5 maybe, just to save the extra time,
You,
because
you platinumed it
I
just like
already
I did.
beat.
So yeah,
Yeah, I
you know.
got, because I naturally got to like around 40 for the speed
Same.
and ring capacity, and then I was like, okay, let me go to the fish, do the fishing
Yeah.
thing and get all
Max
the
it all out.
coins and
Yeah.
buy all of that, and then I love that it kind of breaks. By the way, if you just keep spamming buy the buy the ring the cocoa, it just starts breaking of like how many coins you have.
Yeah.
In the fishing thing. But yeah, like I just sit there and like individually press it. If you do the math, that's at least 200 times of. That's not fun. So that's like
No.
one nitpick that like
No,
if
it's not
they
fun at all.
if they do a sequel to it, like just
Or an update to this game. Let other people that
yeah
haven't played it not have to suffer.
yeah,
Yeah.
because you clearly knew how to do it with the other thing. So
Again, I think I agree with you, but because the other guy, it's two different resources, one for attack, one for defense. Because the Elder Coco
just
takes
split it evenly.
you know what I mean? It's a choice you make. Whatever. Pump all my points into speed. Honestly, like the attack, defense, and speed, and even ring capacity, really. I played on hard, so like most things knocked out almost all my rings anyway. Um, it really didn't feel like you needed level 99. You probably could have had level
Yeah.
10 as the max and really had it. I couldn't really tell the difference between the speed. Besides when I decided I'm going to fish and get them all, then, oh, I'm much
From level
faster now
40 to 99.
to
Yeah.
99. Yeah. But like going from 1 to 10, I didn't really notice much of a difference. And with the ring capacity, it goes up by like what, 7 rings or
So it was like
something
a weird
small.
odd number.
Like,
Yeah.
why? Like, I lose them all when I get hit almost anyway. So, like, it feels like a waste. And technically, it felt harder to get the max rings to do the faster boost the more rings I
It
went
was
up
only
anyway.
the only reason the ring capacity helps you is when to either get the boost, and it's nicer to have it when it is only like you only need 100 rings. But it's just nice during the boss fight when like
Right.
because that's how you lose health, quote unquote. It like ticks down. I'm like, I have 999 seconds to beat this.
Yeah.
So even if I'm struggling, it's just only a matter of time. So
Yeah.
I liked that at least. Um,
Oh, man.
but that was
Those
only
boss
really
fights
real.
get real easy when you have the max attack and defense.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, and then you just hold
feel
down
cheating.
square and you just do the spiral one, the
Yeah.
auto
Yeah.
combo.
Yeah.
Money.
Yeah. Money.
Actually, I do want to talk about the boss fights, but
Okay.
not of the boss fights themselves. I didn't really care too much about the boss fights too much. They were fine. I like the ideas with them that they had, but I just feel like they mechanically were a little like the parrying was a little tough for me to figure out sometimes, or
They're
just
weird.
it was just
But
weird.
yeah.
But can we talk about overall? I guess we can talk about it. The freaking soundtrack that they brought their A game. I mean, they always do, but like it wasn't what I was expecting. You know, like we were a little nervous going in it. Like they just slowed down the Sonic theme or Green Hill Zone theme into like a
Dun, dun,
piano.
dun, dun. Like, yeah.
But I was not expecting. And I'm a big metal fan, but I'm not much of a metalcore fan. And I'm not gonna spend a whole lot of time differentiating the genres. I don't really care too much about genres. You like what you like. Uh, but they had Kellen Quinn, who's from the band Sleeping with Sirens, which is like a metalcore kind of band. Uh,
That was the second boss, right?
I think it was the second boss or one of the bosses. But regardless, they had like metalcore songs for each of the bosses that like I don't like I said I don't really like metalcore that much, but I like metal, and it was good enough to me, or like if anything, pretty great to me, like with the riffs and like the vocals and like it was a little cheesy, but like it fit Sonic's
It
cheese.
fit what was on screen.
Right, right.
Like,
And I was like hyped fighting this boss. I'm like, hell
yeah.
yeah. And then they were like, there were some breakdowns happening at moments, and I'm like, okay, Sonic Team, like you, like I've always generally liked the Sonic music, but it wasn't, and it was always kind of rock based, right? But it wasn't like my favorite type of rock. This was more like to what my type of taste of music was, so I was just happy, selfishly happy because of that. Where I'm like hell yeah! I'm like now we got some metal Sonic, like let's go. This is amazing. But yeah,
Yeah. Soundtrack's great.
and
And
then but
that
there was a
stuff
lot
really
of cool, and there was a lot of cool like almost EDM or
drum and bass, EDM,
drum
lots
and
of
bass
club
shit,
mixes
like
for all the cyberspace stuff, and that like
so good.
they're
So
so
good.
good. They're so good.
Yeah.
I haven't done it recently, but like when I would be doing work on my computer, I would throw a playlist on YouTube of all of those and just go through them all. And there's some really good ones. There's some
There's
really
some
good
bangers.
ones. And like even the open zone stuff I didn't hate. Like my fear, especially with those first gameplay things that the IGN first. By the way, I will say Sonic Team was right. You know what I mean? That we just didn't understand it then. I'll say that they were right, and I'm glad that I was wrong. However, their whole review was not what they needed to do. That was terrible. Out of
Yeah,
context
bad
gameplay
marketing. Bad
was
marketing
bad.
there.
It was real
Yeah.
bad. I hope
Yeah.
IGN paid you a lot of money for that first scoop because I think that's how it works. I doubt
Yeah.
Sega paid them. You know what I mean? Because whatever. But I don't want to get into the IGN stuff. But you know, my seeing that first gameplay thing, I'm like, the soft piano is gonna get so annoying on hour 10 on the same island. Not the case. And like I said, I only noticed it with the volcano island, but I bet it happened with the others. After a certain story beat on that volcano island, the music changed and it became less, dire because when you first reach the volcano island, that's when it really starts to hammer home. Sonic is not well. What he's doing, and again, story stuff, he's trying to be strong for his friends at his own detriment. Will it work out or not? Will it be his downfall? Who cares? But like the music is dire because of that story beat starts our perception on the island and where Sonic is. But then once he starts to do more stuff with Tails and all, it becomes really hopeful. And like it feels more honestly, yeah, maybe a little bit more like Nier's more hopeful but still powerful soundscapes that they do in some of their areas. Nier Replicant and Automata. That stuff was good too. All of it was
I
good.
just looked, by the way, the Sonic Frontiers original soundtrack that's at least on Spotify is 6 hours long. There's 150 songs on it.
Good.
I mean, like it has the looks like it has the like there's cutscenes for each like thing. Cutscene, Sonic on the Move. Cutscene, Mystery Girl. Cutscene, Trapped. So you're right. I think it's after every story beat they add something different, even if it's like slight variations. Because I'm sure it's not a completely new thing. But there's a lot of music in this. I think more than probably people are getting it credit for, or at least talking about. Because I haven't really seen too many people talk about it. But
and like,
shout out to everyone who made the music, because it's Sega Sound Team. It says so.
Yeah. That's just game. That's how it always is. It's the whole company gets.
There's like a lot of. It says a bunch of
things.
There's a song but Japanese
on there,
names.
There's a song on there called Pinball, which plays during the pinball section. We could talk about that maybe in a second. The original composer of the Outrun soundtrack, the classic Sega driving game. I wouldn't call it racing, driving game. Outrun has an amazing soundtrack, and he did the pinball one, and I instantly recognized it as not being done by any of the people that made the rest of the Sonic Frontier soundtrack, but also it sounded like he almost used the same equipment that he might have used back in the 90s to do this one. Very, very good.
Maybe similar samples at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, the album is called, it says Stillness in Motion as like a subtitle. I'm like, that's a good way to describe Sonic Frontiers, Stillness in Motion.
Yeah. One more thing about the music. I don't want to get into Sonic Forces, very bad game, etc. Music was a huge disappointment for me, where I was like, none of this works. Like maybe a track maybe works after the third listen when I kind of get into
more
it.
Like Sandhill.
More like Sandhill. And it was one of the early tracks that it was like that. But for the most part, not my vibe. And I don't even think it was necessarily the vibe of what a lot of kids might wanted. I looked at that because Sonic is always chasing cool. Sonic is not contemporary, or he's contemporary. He needs to be in the moment, in the now, in order to be cool. That's what the whole philosophy on how he exists is, right? Cool. Music changed over the course of Sonic's existence, kind of chasing that, right? And I feel like they made a shot with Forces and failed miserably. And with the specifically the cyberspace levels, nailed what is cool and also still matches the gameplay. And the metalcore stuff you described for the boss fights fits the gameplay and is still cool. And is still fun to listen to and good. And it isn't annoying. Forces was annoying. And
yeah, because I could even there's some Sonic songs like OG ones that I like, but like after dying for the 20th time on that level, it starts to get annoying. You know what I mean? Like this was like if I died, which was not very often, which I think is a good thing. But yeah, it just felt
best part cyberspace when you die.
Refreshing.
Music doesn't start from the beginning; it continues. It continues. You hit restart,
Smart.
It continues. Very smart.
Just get right back in there, kid. That's what they're telling you.
Yep. Absolutely. So we talked about the gameplay. We talked about the story. We talked even a little bit about the combat. We talked about the music. We could talk about some more of the smaller things like the fishing. I'm glad it's there because I think it's nice that it was there. I'm glad.
I want to reduce it though. The amount of time that it wasn't that much time, but it felt like a lot.
You could argue you didn't need to spend that much time doing it.
Yeah,
but it wasn't. It didn't feel.
I've never
varied.
been a big fishing in video games fan though. Like just in general, it's most of them I don't like, or maybe because I'm just impatient. Especially in a game where you're Sonic, where you're moving fast. It's like you stop to a halt to fish.
But at least it wasn't that you run up to a pond and fish. Although maybe that would have been fun. I don't know. I liked it was its own thing. Literally had a lo-fi track. I noticed And like I thought maybe the first time it's my game glitching. Two aspects. Number one, the chromatic blur. I don't know how you call it. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse does this. Other things have done it too, but that's a point where a lot of people will recognize what I'm saying by this, where something out of focus isn't blurry. They are stretching the blue and red color because your eye sees blue in one eye and red more on the other. You know what I mean? Did you know that? That's how the red and blue glasses work for 3D movies way back in the day. Because one eye does one and one eye does the other more than the other. Things out of focus in that movie, in that Spider-Man movie, do that where they're stretched more. The farther away they are, more out of focus they are. In the fishing thing, what's in, I'm going to try to stay true to my little camera box here. What's close to the edges in the bottom corners have that effect done to them. And I thought it was cool. Thought maybe it was a glitch because there was another thing too where I still don't know if this was a glitch or not. The water flickers in some spots.
It does for me too.
And I'm like,
it looked bad. Yeah.
I can't tell if this was because it's cyberspace or it was
No,
a texture glitch.
I think it's a texture glitch
Because it looked
they're like,
too
fuck it.
convincing as a glitch to not be a glitch compared to
It just reminded me of like what water looked like in like late PS2 days for video games. It just looked old and yeah.
Yeah, I was convincing myself no, this is on purpose because it's cyberspace, but it didn't fit the same level of cyberspace stuff that they did, before. Sonic turning into bits or whatever is different than the water flickering in certain squares. You know what I mean? But
yeah,
I'm just glad that they brought back, Big the Cat with a voice.
Hey there, Sonic.
Yep, that was pretty close.
You want to borrow my rod?
Yes, he charges you to borrow his fishing rod, which I find very funny.
I'm not doing anything else today.
Yeah, I'm just fishing for the same damn fish. I do find it interesting that, and arguably one of the more interesting collectibles to get is only done here, which is the Eggman audio logs. I wish there were honestly more of them because I liked listening to them. But again, this goes into the serious Eggman where he's just very
like researching.
Serious. Yeah, in ways where I'm like, huh. Also, this might be the first time that they ever officially decided that Sonic Adventure 2 does not take place on planet Earth in the sense that planet Earth is laid out like planet Earth, or San Francisco being San Francisco, with the President of the United States being the President of the United States. And that's just West Side Island. Just like how there was Angel Island from Sonic 3, and I forget what Sonic 1 and 2's island was called. Forgive me, Sonic fans, but West Side Island. Like I weirdly loved it. I'm like, cool. They recontextualized it into Sonic's lore of like, no, it isn't just Earth. Even though San Francisco's in there. You know what I mean? That's just one of the islands that all the levels are in. Perfect. I don't know. I just like that. But I liked all of his things there. I liked the different cut scenes with him and Sage, although I feel like they were too slow to get to
the only thing is with these audio logs, it's something I feel like listen, it's a video game trope where like you're only reading those because they're dead, or listening to them because they're dead. So it'd been funnier if Eggman you find out is actually dead and all the cutscenes were in the past.
Yeah.
And it's like,
yeah,
I don't know how many days I have left. The experiment has gone wrong. It's escaped. It's always something like that. Dead Space, I think, does that. Yeah. Prey, all the survival Resident Evil, I'm sure, has done that at some point.
BioShock was, I think, the first game to do it, and it worked because you got a lot of story while still being able to move around and just do the game. But in this, it's only in a menu. You know what I mean? That's the funny part about it. I would have loved if those were a thing you actually got by playing the game, because that would have felt like a worthwhile thing.
Or you discovered or something.
Treat.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Oh, it's a treat. Here's the one thing. Missed opportunity, and I wonder if it was meant to be more than what it is. Several parts on all of the islands, there's Eggman's stuff.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Yeah.
Why? Yeah, he was researching this, I get, for story purposes, but do we really need to have...
That's maybe where the audio logs...
and other giant... Yeah, have puzzles with his stuff. And there was a few puzzles using his stuff. I think the Volcano Island used the giant Death Egg robot to make a path open up, which was neat. But have puzzles with his gear, which give you the audio log. That would have been
Yeah.
cool. Because his stuff was there for no reason. They didn't use it like a platform on it, but it felt very weird. It felt like this was his islands. You know what I mean? In some aspects, parts of it were
Yeah.
his. But
Maybe they did have something, but they just left it and just add
uh,
some
I mean,
flavor to it. Yeah.
yeah. Real quick, because we didn't talk about like the fact that the Chaos Emeralds come from space now. That I think was kind of neat that they just decided that lore thing. Yeah, they're from space. Fuck you.
Kind of makes sense. I don't know.
And
I don't want to say it makes sense, but like it's like a science fiction, going back to tropes, science fiction trope of like something that gives you this much power can't be from this planet.
Yeah. But the Master Emerald's from this planet, so that's, what they were drawn to here. There's a moment where I think it's Tails, calls out every single villain in all of the Sonic games. Or they're maybe not all at once, but like they're all called out in a different way, except 06's, which I find very funny. We're like none of them are coming to mind right now. Sonic
Omega or whatever.
Yeah, Sonic Adventure 1's villain, Chaos was his name, obviously.
He's the one who did the 9/11 basically on that town, and then the Sonic claimed that they saved it.
Yeah,
saved the day.
We saved the city. The fact that the alien race that used to have the Chaos Emeralds look like him again maybe goes into that whole thing of like there was a mural and this and that and stuff is based off, I don't care or whatever. But the fact that every single one of those bosses were like name dropped at some point, I'm like, wow, that is neat that they did that. And it's not important and you don't need to have known that these mean anything, but they just did it. Like at one point, I think it was the Tails or someone comments on the cannons, the laser cannons, and says that they're more powerful than the arc reactor's cannon, the thing that blew up half the moon in Sonic Adventure 2. I'm like, that's just neat that they did that reference.
But it's not part of the main
loose
story. Yeah, like you don't have to focus too much about it. It's for the OG fans, but if you're new, it doesn't really matter too much.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I did find that the alien sad story was sad and didn't feel like it just felt like it gave context to what's going on and not that it was like a story that had a conclusion. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. And like, okay, they were fighting this, the end of all things, and then you beat that. So then clearly, they did not die in vain, because eventually thousands of years later, a blue hedgehog would just do it instead of you. It was eerie and cool to see fulfilling the little Cocos made them die. Like,
I saw more of like spirits releasing or something, letting them move on, I guess, a little bit. But it's interesting, especially that they cry like a baby, literally like a baby, and then all of a sudden they just fall over and that's it.
Yeah. We're starting to get to the point where like, where can we go with this review? So I'm going to ask you before we sign off, is there anything left that you really want to talk about with this game?
Yeah, I guess I'll just give more of like a conclusion for me, like to sum it all up. I mentioned it kind of at the start where it's like, I think this is my favorite Sonic game. It might be the best Sonic game we've had in a long time. Maybe that's a hot take, because I've seen some people say it's shit on Twitter. Maybe that's just Twitter. But I just think like they went a different direction successfully. I'm not saying it's a perfect game. It has it has its small minor issues, but they're small and they don't affect the overall gameplay or overall of just having fun. There's been plenty of Sonic games I've not had fun in, straight up. Even if you think the story is cool and whatnot, it's not fun to play. This I had fun throughout. Never really got bored too much, and if I did get bored, there was something else I could do in the game to keep me moving. It's a good casual game too, where I could have it on while, if something else is happening, like if music's playing out somewhere, and that's the difference with like me. The reason I think I'm taking a long time with God of War 2 is like, I feel like I have to I have to sit down and like pay attention, like get invested in like almost like a movie where I have to have the lights off and make it all think. This I could play at any time of the day. spend as much time as I want in it, whether it's 30 minutes or an hour. I feel like I accomplished a decent amount. Uh, like hey, I have a couple hours. Let me play this for a little bit. Um, it's relaxing. It's not very frustrating, like I said, and that's just so much different than my experience with Sonic. And every time I've tried to like Sonic, a lot of Sonic games, and most of them I don't like that I've played, or I've only liked small elements of. This is an overall package I love a lot, and I think this is just gonna set them up for a good future. Where like if they, with the DLC, I'm interested to see what they're gonna do with that, or if there's a
Yeah.
sequel. They know what to expand on. They can look at the metadata or whatever, the player data, and see what things were, they can work on or maybe fix or remove. I think the sky's the limit for something like this, to be honest. I
Yeah.
know maybe that's pretty bold to say, considering, like I said, Sonic Team's history, and I understand that there's the trust issue with that. But I'm back. I'm bored. I think I had not high expectations going into this, but there was expectations that we had being like after Sonic Forces and with the Sonic movie coming out, there's a higher expectation to make something at least solid.
Yeah.
I don't know what
Something
the Metacritic
worthwhile.
score is with this, but I hope it's one of the higher ones because I think it deserves that. Um, it's not going to be a game of the year or anything. I don't think it's at that level yet, but maybe one day it can be. I don't know. But overall, it's a generally pretty polished product. Yeah, the things pop in here and there, and some of the graphics don't look dated, but
You get over it
maybe the
quickly.
but the next one is maybe it'll be next gen only. You know,
Yeah.
we'll see. But yeah, I don't know, I think this is my favorite Sonic game that I've played. I haven't played all of them. I don't know if I ever will, but as someone who's just a general Sonic fan, and we've talked about our Sonic experiences many times on this show. Yeah, I just think this is just for me probably my favorite Sonic game. It feels good. This is coming out, like I said, with the movies, and makes it feel like a Sonic Renaissance that we're eating good. We're eating good.
Yes. Yes. I'll say it straight. This is the best Sonic game ever made. And I can say that with utmost certainty. Yes, Sonic 1 and 2 and CD and 3 and Knuckles, those all have high moments. And I'm sure if you played them as kids, you probably still think that they're the best Sonic games. That's great. They don't hold up all that well, but there's fun stuff in them. My favorite Sonic game is Sonic Adventure 2. There's moments in it to like, but it does not hold up all that well. Sonic Unleashed, I really enjoy that game. I platinumed it. Sonic Colors, I really enjoyed that game. I platinumed it. There's stuff in those games that don't hold up all that well. There's more things to hate in '06, and there's a couple things to like in that game, but who gives a shit? We throw that in the trash. Every Sonic game in existence has had a conceit to make when recommending it to people, when playing it yourself for a second time. There's always something in every single one of these games where I'm like, it's Sonic. This is the first Sonic game ever to be perfectly good no matter who's playing it. Everything it does works. Yes, it is not perfect. Most games that I feel like fit this category are not perfect, but I can recommend this game to every single person. The fact that this took 5 years is worth it. Yes, you could argue that some games spend that time better. I don't care. Sonic needed this. This was a good video game. This is the best Sonic game that has ever been made, hands down. I don't think that there's anything I would change to what this game is in the context it came out in a way where I would feel like it would feel warranted to make it not already what it is. I don't know how else to explain that. This is the best Sonic game ever made.
There isn't like like with cigarettes in like Europe. I don't know if you've ever seen European cigarette. They're always like this will cause cancer on it, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
For all the other Sonic games, I feel like that I've played. Like I said, you've played a lot more than me, but just like the ones I've played, there's always, like you said, there's a caveat to it, or there should be a label on it being like you will vomit at some point playing this, or your save file will be nuked, or you'll just die. You'll run into a random enemy and you'll die and you'll have to start the whole game over. There's always a caveat to something. Or like you said, it's just Sonic. It comes with the
Baggage.
brand, unfortunately. It comes with the
Yep.
baggage. This is the start, like I said, of a renaissance, or maybe I don't know if we should even call it that, but the start of something new. Start of like, this is Sonic. This is what Sonic should be every time.
This is the first Sonic game where after completing it, I feel hopeful for Sonic's future in a concrete way. after Sonic Unleashed and Colors and Generations, I'm like, okay, the Sonic modern formula works if it's easy. And, I'd rather them continue this than do like the bad Sonic '06 stuff. But I didn't really feel as hopeful as after this game where I'm like, they're good. This is what they need to do. This is perfectly fine for what Sonic needs to be. This is fun. The whole game is fun. There isn't a single aspect of this game that is not fun. Hands down, best Sonic game. I think that is the perfect review that we can leave for this game. Like we said, there's going to be DLC.
This is a Sonic movie review certified fresh.
Yeah.
We got to get like a Rotten Tomatoes.
Yes.
You 2 thumbs up or the classic wow.
Yeah.
That you see on like old DVDs. Like
Yep.
New York
Amazing.
Times says wow.
Yeah.
Spectacular, superb.
Like we said, there's going to be DLC for the game, and it's all free, which is neat. So even if it's small, it's free, so it's just neat that they did it. There's going to be patches and this and that, and I understand it's been a few months since the game came out, and it might be a little bit different than when we played it. So we'll see how this shakes up in the end, if it's even better than what it is right now. We'll keep, you guys updated on our thoughts on all this stuff comes out. Maybe we'll stream some of it, or we'll see what the future holds for that.
Well, I was gonna say, like, I hope in 5-10 years we look back and be like, this is when it started to get good.
That's what I hope, man.
I hope like the next generation that isn't us, like, there's some kids out there, this is their first Sonic game, and I'm like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Because I want them to grow up and be like, hell yeah, like Sonic is cool. Sonic is good video game wise. He isn't just a Mickey Mouse brand. You know what I mean? He's not just a merchandise guy. Like, hey, no, he actually has some game cred to him. Because he doesn't have it right now. This is the start. Not saying this gives him Sonic team a like I said, game of the year level of like credibility, but just like this is the start of, I think, something that could be special. Could be.
Legitimately goes from something that Gen Xers used to play on the Genesis and remember as a retro game series that it's cool that it's still around, even though they don't play it, or it's only in the context of what it was.
I gave it to my kids and I don't pay attention to it too much.
And, and the same thing with like our generation of playing Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 and Heroes. And yeah, it's so cool and fun. And, but Sonic sucks. Haha. Like the irony, humorousness of it all. This is the first one where, again, I'm like, anyone can have fun. Anyone can play this. So yeah, if this is your first Sonic game, you were born lucky to be born when you were born, that this was your first one. But yeah, I think that's what it's going to call it for this episode. Thank you guys for sticking by. If you enjoy our talk about Sonic stuff, well, hit the subscribe button on the YouTube video, or hit the hit button on any other places.
Hit the bell.
You know what I mean? We're at Sonic Movie Show on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and all the places that are cool. We are also on a bunch of different variety of podcast places. I'm sure you're listening to us somewhere, so you know that we're available somewhere. Twitter at Sonic Movie Show. Let us know what you thought about the game. This many months in, have you replayed it yet? I will probably at some point do the PS4 versions run for that platinum. Maybe we'll do it as a video thing. Maybe not. Who knows? At some point. But let us know what you think about the game at a few months in. What do you think?
Are we bold in saying this is the best Sonic game, or at least one of the best? Like, are we full of shit? Like, I mean that, like, if you didn't like this game, give us like an actual like reasons why you didn't like it. Like, don't just be like, because it sucks. I want an actual constructive like discussion, because I'm interested. Because most of the Twitter shit that I've seen people shitting on this game, it's just, I think, like half baked. Just dumb comments, to be honest.
To double down on us saying that this is the best Sonic game ever, the reasons people say other game is the best Sonic game is mostly nostalgic based. I'm just going to throw that out there right now. It's most nostalgic based on when they played this game as a child or a certain point in their lives. Objectively speaking, which is hard to say in art forms, those games don't have what this game has in terms of an overall package of being a good video game. This is just the best Sonic game. But if you disagree and you actually have, a perspective that we don't have, let us know on Twitter at Sonic Movie Show. I'm on Twitter at Ethan Absolutely. Devin's on Twitter at Cursona Fun. Let us know what you think. We'll see you next week for another episode.
Yeah, YouTube comments, wherever.
Yeah.
Whatever's easiest for you. Let us know.
Let us know. We'll see you next week. Have a fantastic day.